Hello and welcome to Hysteria. I'm Erin Ryan.
And I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco.
Alyssa, podcasting is an audio medium. I mean, there's a video component. People can go watch us on YouTube and stuff, but I think everyone should know that we're both wearing hats indoors.
I mean, we look adorable.
I used to make fun of people who did this, but then I moved to California and lost all ability to handle any kind of cold whatsoever. I'm a wimp now.
Sometimes it's just the only solution.
Indeed. I'm like literally a whisper away from getting like a nightcap, like sleeping cat, like cap like Wee Willie Winky.
Oh my God, like in 'Twas the Night Before Christmas.
Indeed. It just seems so cozy. And also my house is like 65 degrees and that's just untenable for me.
Well, and I live on the hot side of life and I'm still wearing a hat. So who knows?
We are going to get into a look back at the year 2022, just because we're pre-recording this episode because like as we should be recording this episode at our normal time. I hope that you and I are both like eating cheese,
drinking nog, frosting cookies.
Indeed. And as you're listening to this episode, I hope the same for you. As I was prepping for this, I was thinking about that article by Allison Davis in The Cut that went viral earlier this year. A vibe shift is coming, right? Everyone was like, okay, we're coming out of the pandemic. There was a specific vibe, style. There was a look, there was a type of activity, there was slang, there was fashion that was like of 2019. And then 2020 happened, 2021 happened, and things were still like a little bit messy. But here's what I have noticed in 2022. The vibe did not shift.
No. It
was like between two gears in a car. We're not where we're going and we're not where we came from either. The ancient Greeks thought about chaos as the primordial state of a universe before existence and order took over. So it's not necessarily how we think of it today, which is like mass confusion. It was like a formless void. And I feel as though in the spirit of both of those definitions of chaos, 2022 was a chaotic ass year.
I mean, could it have been more chaotic? I mean, volcanoes are erupting. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy chaos. And I mean chaos in like good and bad sense of the word. It was like things happened that were completely unpredictable and like happy, weird surprises. And things also were weird, bad surprises. But all along the way, things were not working as they should. Things were not panning out the way they should. And it has been chaotic. In that spirit, we have come up with a list of some of our favorite moments in the year of chaos that was 2022. So in the spirit of chaos, we're not doing it chronologically. We're doing it totally out of order.
Then I think that if we're going to go with top favorite moment of chaos, I think it's when we were watching the January 6th hearings and we heard Cassidy Hutchinson explain to us how Donald Trump threw a plate against the wall in the West Wing. Actually, not just in the West Wing, in the dining room of the Oval Office.
On December 1, 2020, Attorney General Barr said in an interview that the Department of Justice had not found evidence of widespread election fraud sufficient to change the outcome of the election. Ms. Hutchinson, how did the president react to hearing that news?
I first noticed there was ketchup dripping down the wall, and there's a shattered porcelain plate on the floor. The valet had articulated that the president was extremely angry at the Attorney General's AP interview and had thrown his lunch against the wall.
Erin, he threw a plate. Give that man some Pamprin and a tampon. What the fuck? He threw a plate and it slid down. It slid down the wall, leaving a trail of fucking ketchup. I couldn't have loved this anymore, except for the fact that she ends the story by explaining how she and the valet took towels to clean up the ketchup, which seemed just utterly not right. They should have left the ketchup. But Erin, we had a president of the United States who threw an absolute fucking tantrum and threw a plate, which probably, given the ketchup, had previously contained a very well done hamburger. And the other thing I think is hilarious about this is that with all this going on, motherfucker ate the hamburger. Like the only thing that ended up against the wall was the ketchup.
Yeah, his plate was clean.
Clean, except for the ketchup.
Except for the ketchup. That's inefficient ketchup usage, honestly, because, efficient usage of ketchup is there is very little residue at the end. You use all of the ketchup that you squirted onto the plate.
Right.
But yeah, ketchup running down the wall. Is there a better visual image?
No. In a nutshell, that's it. That's the whole enchilada for his 4 years.
Yeah, that was extremely chaotic. I want to highlight another moment in chaos. First of all, this is like an honorable mention moment in chaos, but I saw a picture of Katie Holmes from a red carpet event.
Me too! With the jeans.
She's wearing a tube dress over jeans.
With sneakers!
It looks not a day beyond 2001.
It was like it could have been the premiere of Dawson's Creek.
It could have been and she looks she's still looks
100%.
Daisy. I was like, this is horrifying. I cannot go back. We will not go back. I will not wear a twin set that is a sweater tube top with a matching sweater. Gen Z is like insistent on making its own mistakes, despite the fact that there are very recent examples of this not turning out very well for us in millennial and Gen X. But whatever, just go ahead and don't listen to us. A moment in chaos that I wanted to highlight, though, was when Jennifer Lopez remarried Ben Affleck, which is chaotic already.
So much chaos. Yes.
She changed her last name to Affleck. When you have a nickname that involves your last name, what is that decision? I don't understand. I mean, it
was very confusing. It was also, I'm sorry, anyone who can say Affleck and not think of the duck from Affleck is like crazy. So it's like now I see her and that is what I think of when she is Jenny on the Six. You know what I mean? Like I felt like this was not her destiny, but she thought otherwise. So good for her.
Yeah, Mrs. Affleck sounds like someone who would only end up in the Bronx if they were very, very lost. And then they would start crying and ask a police officer for help. That's what it sounds like when I hear Mrs. Affleck. Here's another thing. We had a discussion on the show about like changing your name when you get married, and it's completely your prerogative, whatever you want to do. The tradition itself is rooted in some kind of troublesome origins. But whatever, it's 2022 or, almost 2023. People can do whatever they want. But I would say if I were Ben Affleck, I would have considered changing my last name to Lopez because Ben Lopez sounds cool.
It does, but she was very anti that. She said she's a traditional lady and that was way too modern for her.
Interesting.
I know.
I guess we all pick and choose the ways in which we are traditional. I mean, you can't really say you're like traditional when you've been married like 4 times. I'm just saying, like there's some inconsistencies there, whatever. We all are on our own journeys, but that was a chaotic moment to me.
Totally agree.
And it also was a little bit chaotic in a lot of group texts, I think. Like a lot of like ladies group texts discussing name change.
One of mine, I mean, look, we discussed this also on the show, but like I had a friend who had to pay to get her name back after she got divorced. And she's like, I don't care how much money she has, but you still got to show up at the courthouse to petition to get your name back.
Another moment in chaos. Alyssa, do you want to highlight the next one?
Oh my goodness. You know who's the most chaotic bitch on the planet? Ginny Thomas.
Oh my God. Yes.
Erin, it was revealed that Ginny had been texting Mark Meadows like they got drunk and hooked up once and she couldn't get over it about overturning the government of the election of 2020. Reminder for any listening to us who don't know, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas she texted him something like 20 times to tell him to not let the liberals win with their games. Also, here's the thing that makes her very chaotic. You assume that most of these people are kind of like in on the joke. They're like, yeah, I'll play around with the crazies who think that this was an unfair election, but like, I just want to get my goods out of it. Like, she, according to some of these texts, she was all like, you can't let them get away with this. Like, Ginny, girl, you're married to a Supreme Court justice. Doesn't care. Chaotic. Super chaotic.
my favorite the most chaotic text that she sent to Mark Meadows, and this haunts me, Alyssa.
Which one? Which one?
I can't see Americans swallowing the obvious fraud, just going with one more thing with no frickin' consequences.
Frickin'
With no frickin' consequences. Okay, so fucking is obscene to her, but treason is not.
No, she texted like she was Tracy Flick.
It shook me to my very core. And the thing is, more has come out about like the Supreme Court being leaky. I would also say Alito is like a dark horse for a leaky member of the Supreme Court, which we'll get to in a second. But Ginny Thomas is like, imagine if your worst Facebook aunt was like pulling on the levers of power behind the scenes in the US.
No, I know. I mean, she is banana bonkers. Bonkers.
Absolutely.
And so close to a very, very powerful institution.
Yeah.
Which I'm laughing. That part's not funny, but her fucking chaos is kind of funny.
She is a live, laugh, love stencil written in her own feces.
Blood. Oh, I thought you were going to say in her own blood.
No, but a live, laugh, love stencil in blood would be very funny for a haunted house.
You know what? 2023 is going to be our year, Erin. I'm coming to your house and I'm helping with the front lawn.
It's going to be like in that episode of The Simpsons when Sideshow Bob is writing letters, like threatening letters to Bart in his own blood, and then he passes out because he is writing his grocery list also with his blood. Please do not write live, laugh, love on my living room wall in your own blood, Alyssa. I am worried for your health.
I'll do it outside on your fence.
Oh, okay. So that would go from like the year of chaos, and 2023 would just be just pure malevolence, right?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
I think the thing about chaos is that, Ginny Thomas, despite how horrifyingly unhinged she is, at least her efforts were ultimately futile. She didn't accomplish what she was trying to accomplish. Who knows what she did accomplish? Who knows what batshittery she has been able to accomplish behind the scenes over all of these years. But no, we're witnessing her as a sort of like angry Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd, or, Yosemite Sam throwing his hat down in the dirt and jumping around. But, that's part of what chaos is. It's like malevolent futility in a certain sense.
It's deep
and
as
that's
shit.
The next moment of chaos that I wanted to highlight was it was a pretty bad day. On May 3rd, 2022, which is also our producer, Caroline, made sure that this was in the outline. It is her half birthday. So not even
happy
her birthday.
Half birthday, Erin. I mean, Caroline.
Cool thing to put in the outline, Caroline. I'm going to get you a present for your half birthday next year, and it's going to be annoying.
It's going to be a picture of Ginny Thomas.
It's going to be a framed photo of Ginny Thomas with like, I'm going to put on like bright red lipstick and put a kiss mark on it and write XOXO Ginny on it. Like, I'm Ginny Thomas and I just visited Caroline's sandwich shop in New York, and they're going to be like, look at all these celebrities who've been here. So May 3rd, an initial draft of the opinion on the case before the Supreme Court that would challenge Roe v. Wade was leaked to Politico. In the leaked opinion, not only did the Supreme Court just dismantle Roe v. Wade, it basically undid 50 years of court precedent that went beyond Roe v. Wade. So, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, Texas v. Burwell, I believe, was the one that was like 3 or 4 years ago. And it enabled every state to make its own laws regarding abortion and access to abortion at any point during a pregnancy. And what happened after that was fucking chaos. Absolute legal chaos. We now live in a country where millions of women, millions of people who could get pregnant are living in states where it is totally illegal, essentially, for them to have abortion care. So like in Texas, how many people live in Texas? It's like 20 million, right? 30 million. It's like basically it's like there's as many people in Texas as they are in Canada, basically. And there are that many people in the US who cannot access abortion care at all. 29.5 million.
Yeah.
comparable in size to Canada, population-wise. Fun fact. They can't access abortion care. People across the middle of the country cannot access abortion care. And meanwhile, in places like New York, California, Washington, Oregon, people are enshrining laws. Now, the glimmers of hope amid the malevolent chaos showed that states, that the abortion thing was kind of a bridge too far for a lot of voters.
Yeah.
And as a result, the 2022 election did not in any way hand Republicans any level of control that they were hoping for. What did end up happening as a result of this chaotic moment on May 3rd is that now the House of Representatives is essentially a clown show on the national stage. And then the Senate was not only held by Democrats, but Democrats gained a seat, which is totally against trend, which I'm sure which every pundit has been over until they're blue in the face. So the interesting thing about that is, I mean, I'm not a strategist here, but just speaking as a lay person who gets easily annoyed with politics as performance. What is going to happen now is the best possible situation for Democrats, short of actually holding onto the House, because what America is going to get to see is 2 years of Republican absolute batshittery.
Totally.
None of those fuckers can govern. None of those fuckers can legislate. And as Nancy Pelosi has proven, the ability to run a caucus in the House of Representatives is a rare gift that very few people have. It has taken down otherwise powerful, skilled politicians. Paul Ryan is essentially he's kind of
note.
all he does is he goes around kind of fundraising to whispered room or like hushed rooms of Republicans who are like embarrassed of being like seen as extremists, but nevertheless hold extremist views. So we're going to get 2 years of watching Republicans act completely insane when they're in charge of the House, of Kevin McCarthy or whoever the speaker ends up being totally unable to manage them.
Right, because Erin, as you just alluded to, the Democrats nominated Hakeem Jeffries like weeks ago. And Kevin McCarthy still can't get the votes. He doesn't have the votes. And now, by the time this episode airs, we'll see whether or not they drove the American economy off a cliff because they couldn't make an agreement on the debt ceiling. So we'll see how he does.
Good luck, sir. I do not think you can handle it.
Good luck and Godspeed.
That's a long tail of chaos. And I think we're going to continue to see the tail of chaos well into the next few years. I would love to see Samuel Alito's legal career carry on for long enough for him to see all of his hopes dashed and everything he tried to do just completely ripped apart. I would love it if May 3rd, 2022 was, when he looks back on his life, the moment that everything turned and started going south. So that's my New Year's wish for Sam Alito. What do we have next in our chaotic countdown?
Well, let's see, Erin. Sex and the City, such a iconic, albeit problematic at times, show. And one of the most famous episodes is when Carrie wakes up to a Post-it note from Berger that says, "I'm sorry, I can't." Erin.
Don't hate me. Don't hate me. You forgot
Don't hate me. Don't hate me. Right. So it turns out one of the worst bitches on this planet got burgered. Ghislaine Maxwell, found guilty on 5 counts, sex trafficking minors, because she's a fucking asshole, was in prison when she got dumped by her husband. That's it. She got dumped by her husband. She did.
In prison.
We heard that her husband broke up with her over the course of a dramatic phone call she took from solitary confinement. A source said that the call became confrontational. I think so. And that her husband told Maxwell he was seeing somebody else, a yoga teacher. Look, it is not enough. So many terrible things should happen to this woman. But I have to say, not just having it happen, but knowing she's in prison and that everyone knows how she got dumped, it's a modicum, a smidge, a teensy morsel of justice.
Mm-hmm. Also, I've practiced yoga for a while, and I know yoga isn't about how your body looks after you practice it, but a yoga teacher, you get it in your head that would be like an insulting person to be left for, because, you know, she's in prison. She can't she's in solitary. So she can't just like go to the internet and be like, what's she even look like? Or like stalk her Insta. She's just going to have to be there alone with her thoughts, imagining the hottest, most lithe and in touch with her body yoga instructor who is now with her ex-husband. I gotta say though, don't think that husband had great judgment in the first place.
No. He seems like he was missing. He's like, where do we get all this money from? She's like, don't you worry about it. Where was he in all this?
What's his deal?
What's his deal?
What's your story, sir? Curious what you were thinking.
Where were you? Were you awake for those years? What were you?
Yeah, very, very odd. I want to talk about what another moment in chaos that to me felt like. Do you know the feeling when you are like blowing up balloons manually, like with your lungs, and you have blown up one too many balloons, and you're like, woo, like you start to get that woozy feeling.
I felt that in my lungs.
Yeah. That's how I felt on the day that this moment in chaos happened. I was like, what the fuck is going on? August 8th, 2022, when the FBI executed a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, the residence of former President Donald Trump in Palm Beach, Florida. The search warrant application was authorized by Merrick Garland, the Attorney General. It basically showed that Donald Trump had stolen a bunch of very classified materials from the White House, and the National Archives asked for it back, and his lawyers were like, sure, yeah, we'll give it all back to you. And then they didn't. He just was like keeping these like boxes and boxes of super classified or sensitive documents in a private residence in like a room in a basement with a padlock on it, which is not in accordance to how those documents should be handled or stored.
And I think we just found out recently that they found some in a storage room someplace off site. Like, what?
Man.
What? And didn't he make history again, Erin, by being like the first president to ever have their house raided by the FBI?
Yeah. He's really making some history.
He's a real boundary breaker.
The chaos around Trump is, I mean, it's like malevolent chaos. I think this, and maybe I'm going to be a pariah for suggesting this. I don't know that all of our like darkest visions for what Trump was doing with the documents really might pan out. I think that Donald Trump was trying to steal them so that he could build a museum to himself and like have the documents in the museum, or just like show his friends, you know, like
I think you're right about that. I think he wanted to have like a viewing room at Mar-a-Lago where he brought donors in and was like, look at all the things I took.
Yeah, like he's like the you know, want to see a dead body kid.
Yes, totally.
It's still like very illegal. It doesn't change the fact that he broke a bunch of laws. But my feeling is that the damage done by the documents is really going to be to Donald Trump and his legal record, not necessarily to national security overall. And maybe that's just me being hopeful, but it just felt like all of it has just felt so chaotic. Also, I want to note Ivanka Trump, one of his closest advisors, who was constantly interviewing or interrupting interviews that he was having. Remember that when he was in the White House? And it was like Ivanka always just happens to come in with like a baby at a certain time. And it's just like, oh my God, you quit trying so hard to be a Kennedy. You're not a Kennedy. You'll never be a Kennedy.
Not a Kennedy.
She announced that she was no longer going to be involved in her father's political life. She was not going to be involved in politics at all, which is a little bit of a pivot from what sources very close to Jared and Ivanka had been saying for the duration of Trump's presidency, which is, I think she thought in her addled brain that she would be a beloved, like, American princess.
We've always said she thought she was going to be the first female president.
I think she still thinks that. I think that she thinks she can take some time, have a few more dinners with Kim Kardashian, which was also massively chaotic.
So chaotic.
I was like, I saw that and I was like, no, I rebuke this. Whatever is happening, I don't want to be a part of it. I don't like it. I was surprised that she wasn't going to be involved in her dad's politics anymore. But I think that she maybe has finally started to understand how unwanted she is in many places. What do we have next in chaos?
In chaos. What else is there? Sri Lanka. Chaos in July. Oh my God. After months and months of economic hardship, fuel and food shortages, the people of Sri Lanka had had enough, and they invaded and took over the president's palace after he had fled to an undisclosed location. But they didn't just invade it, Erin. They really fucking got into it. They swam in the blue pool. They took selfies. They prepared meals. They cooked. They got into it. They were like, let's make this shit the best Airbnb we have ever seen. And they did. And I say good for them. Good for them.
Yeah.
I hope the food they made was delicious.
The thing is that, governments get overthrown all the time. People get upset with their government and protest inhumane conditions and serious circumstances all the time. But what to me made this moment go from like a regular, quote unquote, regular government overthrow to something that was uniquely 2022 was the jumping in the pool. And
yes,
the
cannonballs, baby.
There we go. Now this is of 2022. This is what makes it chaotic. It's like
none of them dressed as a fake Viking with horns.
Yeah. It's it was just like, wow, this is very chaotic. And the videos, there's so many videos on social media of this happening.
It's amazing
because so much of it was documented, and it really was very unique and of this year for sure. Felt like it was in the zeitgeist for sure. Through a series of kind of tangled up government oversight failures, corporate greed, and bad logistical planning, combined also with years and years and years of ignoring the needs of parents or not taking them seriously as important national security issues. The largest infant formula manufacturer in the country, Abbott Nutrition, recalled its Similac powder and 2 different types of specialized formula earlier this year, back in April, because it had to shut down one of its plants due to contamination. Now, first of all, before the recall, babies died from this.
Yes.
Babies died from this. And we also found out after the recall and the shortage was getting into full swing that before any of this happened, months and months and months before, people had tried to warn the government and that
was the worst part
that something was bad at this plant, and nobody did anything.
Utterly avoidable chaos.
And what happened on the ground was that grocery stores were completely out of formula. People ended up having to kind of elbow grease these mutual aid formula groups, on Instagram, on Facebook.
I mean, you were doing it. You were crowdsourcing formula for people.
Yeah. And I was able to, one of the only cool things about having a lot of followers on social media is when you can use that to help people or amplify something. Everything else is so I feel so stupid and self-indulgent when I'm on Twitter and oh, give me the approval. But sometimes I can actually be oh, this person is looking for this. And a lot of people did that. People were helping each other. People set up email lists and would go out, and people were mailing boxes of formula from Ohio to Texas to California to Oregon. And I thought that what ended up happening really showcased something quite lovely about human nature and about the way that people will step up and take care of each other. But that never should have happened. Nobody should have ever been called on to do that.
And again, it always shows America showing its ass, because Europe's yo, we got tons over here. We can send it. Yo, America, how does this keep happening to you?
Yeah, well, the war in Ukraine actually contributed to the baby formula shortage, which has been itself, war is inherently chaotic, obviously. Do you remember when the invasion first happened and we all just felt very dark, we were watching Russia go in to crush Ukraine?
It was a terrible fucking made for TV movie. When you're this can't be happening. Is this seriously fucking happening? And then you think it's going to be over in 2 days. It was February 24th or 25th, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Erin, it is 10 months later. And Vladimir Putin, among the most malevolently chaotic if not the most on the planet currently.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people sometimes mistake chaos and malevolence for genius, for dark genius.
No.
And I think that he is a person that I don't think that he's actually, he hasn't accomplished the goal that he thought he was going to
No,
accomplish.
and he doesn't, it's clear he doesn't have a plan. I mean, his plan now is to, before he wanted to take over land, but now they can't do that. And so now he's trying to freeze Ukrainians for winter. Just fucking sick.
Completely fucked up. But, not the first time Russia tried to do that to an opposing army. That's kind of their go-to is
it's like, okay, this is the last play in the playbook.
The war is kind of turning in favor of Ukrainians and it has kind of slowly been turning. I would not fuck with a Ukrainian. That's another takeaway. But because of the war and because of, it's unleashed chaos, not only in Ukraine, but there's been like reverberating waves of it. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways it reverberated in the US is that it contributed in part to this formula shortage. Yep. And, some mothers, I've seen stuff on social media that some people are still having trouble finding specific types of formula. Oh, can I just add real quick? There was this like super chaotic take in the discourse when we were all talking about the formula shortage, where it'd be like some fucking man who looked like he smelled like earwax. Like
that's so like softly mildewed.
Oily, but like more like waxy men,
gross,
waxy men, solid Tulsa fours, I will say.
Okay.
Would say stuff like, why don't you just breastfeed? Just breastfeed. Like demonstrating confidently that they not only have no idea how babies are fed, but they have no idea how breasts work. Or how long breastfeeding takes or how hard it is and how like not everybody can do it. And it just was a very chaotic discussion where I was like, oh my God, men know so little about women's bodies.
You know what? Big year for that. Between that and the SCOTUS decision on abortion, Dobbs, a lot of people revealing themselves to know absolutely nothing about how women's bodies work.
Absolutely. Like disturbingly nothing. Like, I think I know more about how male anatomy works than most men know about female anatomy or like vaginas and uteruses.
Well, there's something about men who have kids and have been through this. It's not like it's just people. It's just like young men who, maybe have not had exposure. These were like grown-ass men who have kids who are like that's not how it works. It's like, yes, it does, you asshole.
Yeah. My final thought on that was like, oh, I feel so bad for like every one of their wives. Like what a miserable existence to be married to a person who has like not only like no curiosity, but like no understanding of how something really fundamental works. No desire
to Google.
no desire to be correct and confidently, smugly being just the wrongest. Nobody's ever been wronger. It was just, it was crazy. But, and it's sort of like, imagine if you took your car to a mechanic and you were watching the mechanic work on your car and like, you see him like go in there with like a sledgehammer.
Or a glue gun.
Yeah, a glue gun or like a baby's toy doctor kit playing. And you're like, oh, you don't know what you're doing.
Like, oh.
Yeah, an axe. He suddenly takes a big axe to like open your hood and you're like, oh my God, you should not be a mechanic. That's kind of how I feel about most of the men who make laws about women's bodies and who have opinions about what women should be doing with their bodies, what people who can become pregnant should be doing with their bodies. It's like, good God. You're not on TikTok, right?
No,
kind
of a little bit. I mostly just watch you to find out the good TikToks.
Okay. TikTok is a real super highway for chaos. Okay. So like whatever chaotic is going on in the world, it becomes more chaotic the more people like participate in the conversation. And also because TikTok just continually feeds you algorithmic content that is like the content you've already watched. It's like a rabbit hole machine, right?
Right.
So I thought that the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial
Oh God, yeah.
really became this like chaotic dystopian moment. Do you remember how everyone just like lost their minds?
Lost their minds. I mean, even I was like, I'm like, I can't talk about this. This is too much. I can't talk about it. It was dark chaos.
Mm-hmm. It was such a spectacle too.
Yeah, that's the better word.
With the benefit of hindsight, we're now finding out that part of the reason it was a spectacle was because it was amplified by pro Johnny Depp bots and like AI and like sock puppet accounts. And it seems like something really dark was maybe going on behind the scenes where like Depp's team was really trying to ruin Amber Heard's reputation by amplifying anti-Amber Heard content to the point that like Lance Bass was making anti-Amber Heard content.
Oh God.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
even see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck.
It's like, it was very not in, I mean, he was obviously.
It was very clear, whether on TikTok or Twitter, wherever you went, that something was afoot. I mean,
Yeah. It's like, this
like,
isn't.
No.
Why are you know what? Okay,
Hmm.
you know that I'm a paranoid person, and I will freely admit that.
I
always
wouldn't say you're paranoid. I'd say you have theories that can be
Uh-huh.
colorful.
So I've got a couple theories right now. When we talked about disinfo and the
Yeah.
way that it's used by misogynists, we talked about how this is maybe the future of like PR wars. That people will engage with like bot armies to try to amplify their side, especially powerful celebrities. They've already done it. You know, the Snyder cut was called for by like thousands of bots, and the studio was like, oh, I don't know, all these people are mad at us, but they're just bots. I think right now I've been seeing a suspicious amount of anti-Meghan Markle content on social media, and it feels very Depp Heard to me.
I agree. I mean, just have your Netflix special. Let it be. If you don't want to watch
Mhm.
it, don't watch it.
There's something that doesn't smell right.
Well, and the bots have been going for her since the day she set foot into that palace. I mean, so it's not surprising that they'd be rearing their heads now.
I would not want to have pissed the royal family off, but I could not put it past any powerful entity to not take advantage of this if they're in a PR battle, to not like try to enlist the help of like bots and artificial social media engagement and stuff like that. Another thing that I've been seeing, and this is like a chaotic honorable mention,
Mhm.
Britney Spears.
Yeah. Where is she?
We went from free Britney to Britney is free. Britney is very free. Britney is doing many, many free things which is totally her prerogative, to currently, as we're recording this, nobody really there's a bunch of conspiracy theories about like where Britney Spears is because her Instagram was shut down, and all of these weird posts on TikTok don't seem like they're her. And
No.
what do you think's going on?
Don't know. Where's Britney?
I don't know. I hope we know by the time this episode comes out.
I do too. I hope we can add a kicker to the episode or something, but like,
yeah, we might have to do
none of
emergency.
it makes sense. And it all feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, indeed. None of it makes sense, and it all feels uncomfortable is a great way to summarize 2022. Even the good news felt bad. The bad news became good. And nothing is really, I feel like everything is kind of in this like inflection point, primordial sludge. And whatever comes out of it, hopefully, is better than what went into it. Because, what went into it wasn't great.
No. With that, Happy New Year, Erin.
Happy New Year.